When you view an infotex, webinar, or movie, you do so with 4 caveats. First, you are agreeing to the terms posted at the webpage listed on this slide. Second, our lawyers want you to know that what infotex presents is often time-dated or about new trends, regulations, or guidance, and therefore we cannot provide this material with any warranty whatsoever. Thirdly, material provided with infotex webinars and movies is copyrighted. You keep the copyright to material customized to your organization, but infotex reserves the right to use the material in other engagements and boilerplates. See our Transfer of Copyright Agreement at the webpage listed in the slide. Finally, those who view our webinars or movies may be added to an email mailing list. If you do not wish to receive notice of additional educational opportunities, please accept our apologies and please opt out at the web page shown on the slide.
Hi, I'm Adam Reynolds and I'm the lead non-technical auditor here at Infotex. Thank you for joining us today for this movie, Incident Response Tests and What to Expect in 2022. Before we get into the details, I want to start at a high level and establish that what you really should be expecting from an incident response tabletop test is value. It should be putting everybody on the same page about the incident response process, and we want to plug into your organization as a partner when it comes to incident response. And if your management team isn't walking out of the incident response test feeling like it was worth their time, then you should really talk to us about it, because we may not have achieved the value that you should be expecting from this process. And so why are you involved in something cyber like an incident response test in the first place? If you're an HR person, if you're an executive of the bank or credit union, if you're the marketing person, you may be thinking, this is cybersecurity and why am I involved in this? And what will answer that question then is talking about the process itself, and then we're going to dig into what your role is in that process. And so how about we get started with that? And why are you involved in an incident response test? Starting with the fact that in 2015, the FFIEC released what we call the Cybersecurity Assessment Tool, or CAT, and you might recognize some of this iconography. Your information security officer has had to present this many times, but part of that guidance requires us to exercise our incident response plan. In 2016, the FFIEC updated their information security booklet, which suggests the use of FS-ISAC's CAPS tests, which are tests of your payment system, which you might have already participated in. But this is not that type of test. This is a test of your internal systems, a test of your incident response team. And this test really requires management and not IT to conduct the tests. And by the way, the information security booklet, I believe the exact words out of it are periodically test incident response procedures, which should address escalation, remediation, and reporting of events and incidents. And if you're wondering about the frequency, we really read that as well as a lot of other auditors and examiners, unless there are some really extenuating circumstances, as that should be done annually. And so what I've established here is that, of course we're required by guidance to test the plan. But what I haven't established is why do we need marketing, human resources, the executives, and the people that really don't have much to do with cybersecurity training included in these tests. So, first of all, let me just kind of establish that compliance is not really the best reason. Compliance, at least in cybersecurity, is never really the best reason to do something. But what I'm here to tell you is that, is we have learned that those organizations who have proactively exercised, how they're going to act when they're in that panic, when they're thinking they, may have to notify their customers, or, heaven forbid, when they're worried they're going to have to pay a ransomware. Those organizations that proactively address these situations respond better and can turn those lemons into lemonade. And we've been doing this, since the year 2000, and we've heard again and again from banks saying, holy cow, we've got customers coming into branches giving us kudos from the way we responded to that scary career-threatening event, and putting quotes around event, because not only was it handled well by the incident response team, they were able to turn those lemons into lemonade in some way. Equifax proved that if we don't respond to an incident properly, we can destroy our reputation. And what this test should prove to you is that management does need to be involved when there's a cybersecurity incident. If we have to notify our customers, your marketing people, I'm pretty sure, want to be involved when we're going to notify our customers. And then meanwhile, if we're going to have to investigate our employees, if we're going to have to be talking to our employees about not following procedures or whatever, we're going to want human resources involved in that. And then finally, I think the executives are starting to realize, why their involvement is important. Because I'm pretty sure you're not going to approve a letter going out to all of your customers saying that, we just messed up. If you haven't been properly trained on how that process works, we have found that if your information security officer or whoever it is that chairs your incident response team can walk you through a process that you recognize as it unfolds, that's when we're turning lemons to lemonade. That's when we have people coming into the branch giving us kudos even though we just screwed up. And finally, what we're also seeing is that there's a lot of times when, even though customer information was involved, we do not have to notify our customers. And so what's great about the incident response test process that we walk you through is it gives you the confidence you need when you run across those incidents. Because you're saying, hey, when we tested this, we did not have to notify our customers. Then maybe we don't have to notify them, now in this situation. And so we'll exercise that type of scenario as well so that you fully understand when you do and do not have to notify your customers. So I hope I made a case as to why. So let's kind of, dive into the process itself now. What we want to make sure you realize is we're talking about confidentiality here, not availability. And so, ransomware actually does affect availability, right? And so we do want you involved if there is a ransomware event. We see ransomware as a cyber threat. We see it as something that the incident response team would address, but a tornado taking out your data center, a hurricane wiping out your vendor, those are availability incidents. They're not really cyber incidents. They don't affect the confidentiality, and they don't affect the availability of our network, when it should be running. And so those are tested in a different tabletop test called business continuity tabletop tests. What we're talking about with this test is a test of your incident response plan. That's different than your business continuity program. We have many different ways to test programs and plans and that sort of thing. And what we're really talking about here, for this engagement is a tabletop test of your incident response plan that requires a test plan, minutes of the test, and post-mortem review. You can also get a functional test of your incident response plan by asking and working with whoever is auditing you, whoever's conducting those pretext calls or phishing tests or whatever, to work with you to measure how long it takes to broadcast awareness. And if you're an audit client of infotex, be sure to bring that up and we'd be happy to work with you. And that's really kind of a functional test. It's a test of your overall incident response program, or at least, the broadcast awareness component of it. So the process itself then starts with a kickoff meeting. From there, there's a training meeting. Then there's the actual test itself. And then the post-incident review, or the post-mortem review is what we typically call it. I believe the new guidance calls it a post-incident review. And what I want you to know is that, the fine print here, this is what your information security officer has to make sure is done. We're not going to go into all those details here, but suffice it to say, along each step along the way, there's a lot of work being done in the background. Just so you know that, your ISO is hard at work setting up these things, approving things, that sort of stuff to make sure that this test goes smoothly. And then meanwhile, in between each of these processes, and then actually after the post-mortem review, there's also a lot of work that Infotex is doing as well.
The test itself, according to guidance, requires a test plan. It requires minutes of the test, and it requires a post-mortem review or post-incident review. And we're going to be helping you with all of that, which really brings me to my next point, what your role in the test is.
First of all, before we even get into your role, there's a lot of advanced preparation, kind of the details of what I was showing you, that process diagram. We're actually going to have your information security officer send us your incident response program. We're going to review that policy. We're going to review the plan, the tools. We're going to make recommendations, and then you might be involved as an incident response team member, and in terms of receiving those recommendations, deciding whether you want to act upon them, maybe updating your incident response program before we even get to the first part of the test. But that's your role. So that's all being done in the background, with the exception of you might have to read the new incident response plan. But these items, that are read here, this is really what you're going to, have to work on. First of all, you're going to need to sit down in a training meeting, which usually lasts about an hour. Sometimes they can go shorter or longer, really depends on the number of questions and material to review. But in that, we're going to have a nice little PowerPoint where we present, that and it kind of customized to your plan. We can do that because, of course, we've already reviewed your plan, right? So what we're actually going to do is we're going to go, walk through the plan, and what we, do is go through that page by page, one page at a time. See if you have any questions about this. Is there anything that needs to be updated? We don't usually see people, that are non-technical suggesting too many updates until we get to, that part of the plan where we're listing like phone numbers, that sort of thing. That's where we usually find out, perhaps somebody's name is spelled wrong, or, someone has changed their phone number. We want to make sure that, we get done before the test day, and then finally, when we're putting together a test plan that establishes what the test day is going to be comprised of, then the next part of your role is to actually sit in on that test and pretend you're like in the middle of an incident. And we usually have between 6 and 8 scenarios that we'll walk you through, which can definitely take the majority of the day. We typically start the meeting at 10 o'clock in the morning. We have lunch during that meeting. During lunch we may talk to you about some of the scenarios and maybe ask you some questions. But after lunch, we're going to pick right up where we left off. Typically, the meetings last till 2 or 3 that day, and then in a completely separate meeting, we have the post-mortem review after that. So, by the way, the training meeting is on a different day than the test day, which is on a different day than the post-mortem review. And for the post-mortem review, what we'll do is put together a report that you own. It's your report, but we go over that report with you. One of the things we always worry about is people rushing through the post-mortem review process, both in an actual incident and in an incident response test. One of Dan's sayings that he used to use to try to encourage people to take the post-mortem review process more seriously is that if hindsight is 20/20, why not document what we're seeing so that the next time we do an incident response test, the next time we actually have a live incident, we are able to do a better job. And so with that, I want to go ahead and just kind of quickly show what the deliverables are from the incident response testing process. And in order to protect the names of our clients and stuff, we don't have a lot of deliverables in here, but suffice it to say that, the first step again is we'll get your incident response program documents. We'll review them. We'll work with the ISO to queue up possible changes to it that you then, as an incident response team member, may or may not approve. And we'll also do an insurance review if it's included in your engagement, where we will take your cyber insurance policy or other insurance policies and review them. And we'll fill out and populate a spreadsheet that ends up delivering a table to your incident response plan. Usually it's an appendix in the back of your plan that will help you navigate, kind of the do's and don'ts and what is and what isn't included in your cybersecurity insurance. Of course, we already talked about the plan walkthrough meeting. That's normally in this. There will be a PowerPoint presentation. It's customized to you. And then, of course, there will be your incident response plan and then your incident response test plan. And we, walk through that in the training meeting. So then the test documentation then is just kind of a series of files. Of course, we're going to have to, have a test plan. We're going to have minutes to the test. But, we actually will have handouts that we'll give you during the test that queue up each of these scenarios. And then, that is actually a subset of this. We actually take those handouts and then we take minutes on each of those scenarios, and then finally there's a post-mortem review, and then most of our clients are actually having us go in and present the results of the incident response test to the board of directors. It's not that expensive, and we do it over the internet, so you don't have to pay us to get us down there or anything, but suffice it to say, if we're doing that, it's really summarizing the post-mortem review for your board of directors.
And so back to the presentation, just to kind of finish this out, I want to circle back around one more time to that post-mortem review. Because if we have to invest the time anyways, why not get a return on that investment? Or more importantly, in a real live incident, we're going to be investing in possibly some of our reputation, So, if we're going to hurt our reputation a little bit, or allow it to be hurt, or not protect it as much as we would like, we need to learn from that process. So that brings me to the end of this presentation. If you'd like this information, please shoot us an email and we'd be happy to provide that. Similarly, of course, if you have any other questions about services we offer or anything else, please let us know and we'll be happy to get back to you. And with that, thank you for joining me and watching this movie from Infotex.